Hello, this is Anthony Fasano, Executive Director for the New York State Society of Professional Engineers. I'm here with Mark Chris, our Legislative Counsel. We've been bringing you these video updates, and we just finished a session in late June, and we want to provide you a little bit of a summary of some of the three kind of the main items that we were focused on, although we're focused on many items. But some of the three more active items this session were the parking garage issue that we talked about in a previous video, where a county executive almost was injured when there was a partial collapse of a parking structure, and the local politicians reached out to us to investigate if there was requirements on parking garage inspections in the state, and there weren't. So we worked on this bill to try to require them to be, I think it ended up being every 5 years, and Mark can tell you how it ended up.
Well, certainly, it's passed both houses of the legislature, thankfully, and we expect that the governor will approve it. He did have some input into the process. Sometimes there's needs for chapter amendments on bills. This one looks pretty polished, and I think it's unlikely, can't say never, that we have a change. But the 5-year inspection cycle is subject to a more vigilant inspection protocol if the particular building shows, deterioration or some structural failings, and it could, result in a closing of a garage if it was really that bad, to merit, make sure public safety is paramount.
Right, and that is our mission, to ensure that, engineering is done in a way that we keep an eye on the health, safety, and welfare of the public, and that's why this was a great bill, and we're glad that we were able to help to push this one through. The next one was this fingerprinting issue, and I know we had a bunch of comments on our video on fingerprinting, like, why do we have to fingerprint engineers? And we certainly, we did oppose the bill, but I also want everyone to understand that it wasn't a bill that was necessarily targeted specifically at fingerprinting engineers. There were some issues in the medical profession with people trying to pose as medical professionals to gain access potentially to drugs, medication, etc. And so it just so happened that the bill was going to lump in fingerprinting for all the licensed professions, and engineers would have been caught up in that. So Mark, how did this one end up?
Well, fortunately, we focused on that particular segment. It's a broader bill, and it's by the state education department, and they did have a problem in the health professions, maybe some of the allied health professions like nursing. And the piece of the bill that dealt with fingerprinting was immediately removed from the bill across the board. I think they heard from quite a few groups, including us, stating that this was, in essence, a solution in search of a problem, particularly as it impacted engineers. So the other components of the bill are still being pursued, and they actually passed the Senate, and it's something that internally we have to have some discussions about, in my opinion. I think there's real issues that we have to discuss internally and come to closure about as to what we want to do going forward on that.
Okay, great. And last but not least, the third item is design build, and I will reinforce again, as we have been doing through these videos, that NYSSPE is in favor of design build if it is done in a way that has the proper safety protections and guidelines in there. And there was a bill that was proposed to allow New York City agencies to administer projects through design build, and we didn't feel that this bill specifically had all the guidelines and safety protections in place that we were comfortable with. So we opposed the bill. And Mark, how did this one end up?
Well, fortunately, it didn't pass either house, and yet it was a high priority of Mayor de Blasio's, and I think it's not an issue that's gone away, obviously. So the concerns we have are still we're gonna continue to press them. For example, they don't explicitly state in the legislation that the engineer who's part of the design build team, the principal design firm, for example, being one name you could call that entity, doesn't have necessarily direct access to the owner of the project.
Right.
And that's something we think should be.
That's a big concern of ours.
Absolutely, and there's a number of other similar kinds of concerns that we've articulated in our memoranda that we submitted to the legislature, and that we're going to continue to press. And I think design build, like Anthony, you mentioned earlier, we don't have a problem with it as long as it's done properly, and that's really the devil's in the details.
Right, and I just want to add here is it's not like we oppose a bill like this and then the session ends and we have a party and we move on with something else. Mark still is talking to the sponsor of the bill. We want to work and make something work. If we like we said, we for-design build if we can get it to work with the proper guidelines. So it's not like we're just trying to beat a bill and we're not looking at improving it. Mark is going to continue to work with the sponsor and try to see if we can help to improve the bill, and potentially maybe something will pass that will that will meet our concerns and the concerns of our members.
Yeah.
So, all right, Mark, thank you for another
You're very
another
welcome.
great legislative session. And please give us feedback on the videos as you have been. Leave a comment below the video. We want to hear more and other topics that you might be interested in hearing us talk about. Thank you.